such an amazing story that touches on so many things.
It is part of the history of the Pacific Northwest. It's part of the history of criminal justice in the United States. It's a story worth telling.
The son we raised was a wonderful, good person.
He was the perfect young man. Empathetic, sympathetic, ambitious.
He was good-looking and charming and seemingly had the world in his grasp and was going to be a successful guy.
I never wanted to think people were born evil, but my opinion about that changed when I met Ted. I think he was just born evil.
Ini bukanlah berita biasa, namun benar-benar kisah nyata memilukan. Awal kehidupan dari seorang pemuda tampan dan cerdas, seorang mahasiswa hukum yang juga lulusan psikologi, yang menjadi pembunuh berantai paling menawan, sekaligus paling kejam, dan paling terkenal sepanjang sejarah Amerika Serikat. Bahkan penjara pun tidak dapat membendung obsesinya untuk terus melakukan perbuatan yang mengerikan dan tak terkendali. Dan kisah ini disebutkan sebagai kisah yang jadi peringatan bagi para orang tua setelah mendengar pengakuan Ted Bundy beberapa jam jelang eksekusinya di kursi listrik. Yang akan kita kupas lebih dalam lagi dalam tayangan dokumenter khas K Channel. Selengkapnya sesaat lagi hanya di YouTube K Channel, Membuka Jendela Dunia.
Ted Bundy, you think of one of the most evil men in American history, and also one of the most fascinating.
Well, Ted Bundy was a gruesome celebrity in this country, and especially in Florida because of the murders he committed here. And at the time, he probably could easily have been called and was considered the most hated man in America.
Ted Bundy adalah pembunuh berantai berpendidikan. Ia cerdas dan tampan. Tetapi ia juga disebut sebagai iblis bertampang menawan paling kejam sepanjang sejarah Amerika. Ia telah mengakhiri hidup 30 gadis-gadis muda dengan kondisi jasadnya yang sangat mengenaskan. Tetapi ia tidak pernah mengakui bahwa dirinya bersalah hingga beberapa jam menjelang eksekusinya di kursi listrik. Akhirnya ia mengakui semua yang telah ia lakukan dan apa yang menyebabkan ia melakukannya, yang mengejutkan semua orang dan menjadi kisah nyata peringatan bagi negara dan para orang tua. Ia juga sempat mengakui pada pengacaranya bahwa korbannya telah mencapai lebih dari 100 orang karena ia telah kecanduan.
I'm having a lot of trouble. I mean, genuine trouble. Figuring stuff out. I used to see a good-looking girl, and 1 minute I'd be thinking how nice it'd be to go out with her. And then the next instant I was thinking how nice her head would look on a stick. I don't think anybody doubts that I've done some bad things. The question is what, of course, and how, and maybe most importantly, why.
Hawkins girl's head was severed and taken up the road about 25 to 50 yards.
Ted Bundy terlahir dengan nama Theodore Robert Cole pada 24 November 1946 di Elizabeth Lane Home di Burlington, Vermont, sebuah tempat khusus untuk para calon ibu yang tidak bersuami. Ibunya Eleanor Louise Cole atau biasa dipanggil Louise tinggal bersama orang tuanya di Pennsylvania. Louise berusia 22 tahun saat melahirkan putranya, Ted. Louise harus menghadapi stigma sosial karena memiliki anak di luar nikah dari pria yang masih misterius sebagai sang ayah dari bayinya. Karena pada masa ini memiliki bayi tanpa menikah adalah hal yang memalukan, sehingga kakek dan nenek Ted berpura-pura sebagai orang tua kandung Ted, sementara ibu Ted, Louise, berpura-pura sebagai kakaknya. Walau sebagian besar kerabat dan tetangganya tidak mempercayai hal itu, tetapi Ted sejak ia dilahirkan, ia hanya mengetahui dan percaya bahwa kedua orang tuanya yang sebenarnya adalah kakek neneknya. Begitupun pada Louise yang sebenarnya adalah ibu kandungnya, Ted percaya bahwa Louise adalah kakak kandungnya. Di masa kecilnya, Ted tidak mengalami masa kanak-kanak seperti pada umumnya. Apalagi di masa balita yang seharusnya diberikan perhatian yang lebih, kasih sayang yang penuh, dan menikmati kegembiraan dalam bermain sesuai masanya. Tetapi di rumah ini, Ted yang berusia masih sangat kecil mengalami banyak hal yang tidak seharusnya anak-anak alami, hingga merasakan luka batin yang mendalam dari kenangan buruk yang begitu membekas dalam ingatannya, dari perlakuan kakeknya yang begitu keras terhadapnya. Jangankan Ted yang usianya masih sangat kecil, neneknya pun mengalami gangguan mental akibat perlakuan kakeknya.
There was a lot of violence and abuse in the house. Both of his grandparents, we know, were mentally ill. His grandfather was violent to his wife and daughters.
Menyadari bahwa di dalam rumah ini tidak memberikan kehidupan yang sehat secara mental dan khususnya bagi perkembangan Ted. Lalu saat Ted berusia 5 tahun, ia dan ibunya yang dipercaya sebagai kakaknya itu pindah ke Tacoma, Washington. Mereka tinggal bersama pamannya yang memiliki kehidupan yang sangat mapan. Pamannya adalah orang yang berpendidikan. Ia seorang profesor musik, memiliki rumah yang bagus, mobil yang mewah, dan kerap berpergian ke luar negeri. Dan sejak saat inilah, Ted selalu bercita-cita ingin memiliki kehidupan mewah sebagai orang sukses seperti pamannya. 2 tahun kemudian, Louise menikah dengan Johnny Bundy yang merupakan seorang juru masak di rumah sakit militer dekat Tacoma. Dan sejak Louise menikah dengan Johnny Bundy, kemudian Ted diadopsi oleh Johnny Bundy secara resmi untuk menjadi putranya. Dan dari sinilah ia mendapatkan nama Bundy yang selanjutnya dikenal sebagai Ted Bundy. Tetapi Ted tidak memperlihatkan rasa senangnya, bahkan sempat menghina ayah adopsinya itu karena ia kecewa Louise yang ia tahu sebagai kakaknya itu tidak menikahi pria kaya yang bisa membantu merubah kehidupannya dan membantu mewujudkan cita-citanya memiliki kehidupan mewah.
He wanted to be from a family that had money, and he wasn't.
It's another sort of check mark to use against his mother that she didn't marry somebody wealthy, so he didn't have to go out and steal to look wealthy.
This is a guy who from the earliest age was a petty thief.
The idea that Ted Bundy was involved in peeping actually makes sense because it's basically a training ground about how you isolate people, how you watch people, how you get into houses.
Walau Ted Bundy kini hidup dalam rumah yang hangat bersama Louise dan Johnny Bundy, serta adik-adiknya, putra dan putri hasil pernikahan Louise dan Johnny Bundy. Tetapi kenangan luka lama yang ia alami saat tinggal bersama kakeknya masih membayangi dan mempengaruhi hidupnya, hingga ia sempat mengalami gangguan bicara.
And I grew up in the same neighborhood as Ted from the time I was 5 until I was 15. For a long time, he had a horrible speech impediment. And some words he just plain couldn't pronounce, so it was very hard to understand him. I think the speech impediment came because of the abuse from his grandfather. Ted told my brother that his grandfather enjoyed beating him and putting him down and calling him a bastard.
Dan tidak hanya gangguan bicara saja yang ia alami. Mulai usia 10 tahun, Ted sudah berperilaku aneh. Ia banyak melakukan hal yang tidak sewajarnya, baik pada teman-teman atau anak-anak di lingkungan tetangganya, terlebih pada binatang seperti pada kucing. Ia mengikatnya pada tali jemuran, menyiraminya dengan cairan, dan membakarnya dengan korek api. Bahkan terkadang ia juga melakukan hal yang lebih ekstrim lagi.
Ted used to drive the little kids in the neighborhood out into the woods over there. He'd take them out there and strip them down, take their clothes. You'd hear them screaming for blocks. I mean, no matter where we were here, we could hear them screaming. Because he liked to terrify people. He liked to be in charge. He liked to inflict pain and suffering and fear.
One thing we know is that as a youngster, that this very early warning sign about people who become killers, about animals, he was doing that.
Animal mutilation is really fairly common in people who end up being serial killers just because it's a fascination with death.
Di masa remajanya, Ted adalah remaja pemalu. Walaupun ia dikenal tampan di sekolahnya, tetapi ia tidak begitu banyak bergaul. Ted merasa kurang percaya diri karena keadaan keluarganya yang tidak kaya. Dan di masa remajanya ini, Ted Bundy akhirnya menemukan sendiri kebenaran tentang orang tuanya.
He stumbled across some documents that told him that everything that he thought was true had been a lie.
Everything he'd previously been told to believe was in fact a lie. In those circumstances, it would be natural to distrust. It would be natural to find it very difficult to form lasting attachments to those people who had lied to him.
Ted begitu sangat kecewa bahwa Louis yang diyakini sebagai kakak perempuannya ternyata adalah ibu kandungnya. Dan Louis saat itu awalnya masih menutupi siapa sebenarnya ayah Ted.
In the course of our investigation, we interviewed a lot of people, including some of his family. One member of his family, I believe his aunt, told us that there had been suspicion that in fact his grandfather was also his father.
Ted told my brother that his grandfather enjoyed him and putting him down and calling him a bastard and should have never been born. He never admitted to Ted that he was his father, but his mother told him that, yeah, her dad had her. His grandfather was his father.
Dan sejak saat itu, Ted mulai mendapat banyak masalah hukum dan melakukan sejumlah kejahatan kecil dan berjuang untuk mendapatkan pekerjaan. Dan Ted menghabiskan sisa masa remajanya untuk terus mencoba mengatasi rasa malu karena latar belakangnya sebagai anak haram. Pada saat ini, Ted mendaftar di University of Washington di Seattle. Dan itu adalah kesempatan Ted untuk memulai awal hidup yang baru. Pada masa Ted Bundy masuk kuliah, ia memakai mobil Volkswagen Beetle, mobil yang sangat populer pada saat itu. Dan itu menjadikannya lebih percaya diri ketika memasuki kuliah. Selain tampan, Ted dikenal sangat cerdas dan memiliki pengetahuan yang luas saat berbicara tentang hal-hal berbau politik dan bagaimana cara menjalankan pemerintahan.
He was considered charming, he was considered well-dressed, he was considered educated, and at that time, that was the only thing that people really paid much attention to.
Ted was popular at the University of Washington. His professors thought he was great, that he was brilliant.
Basically overlooked any type of emptiness that was the core of him.
Ted Bundy that I knew, there were things about him that were were special, I would want to say. Charisma. I remember thinking what a handsome man he was, and probably wistfully myself, wishing that I were so. I remember him being well-spoken, intellectual.
Dan Ted Bundy akhirnya menemukan pekerjaan di klinik krisis saluran bantuan.
Ted and I would work as a team. Ted was wonderful on the phone. He sounded caring. He was interested in people, and many times we saved lives, which seems very ironic to me now. But I got the sweet Ted, and who would walk me out to my car at 2 in the morning when my shift was over, and he'd say, "Ann, please lock the doors. I don't want anything bad to happen to you on the way home." Well, I just been locked up with probably the most dangerous man in the western states. Never had a clue.
Ted kini jatuh cinta dan menjalin hubungan kekasih dengan seorang mahasiswi cantik bernama Stephanie. Stephanie adalah wanita berambut panjang di belah tengah dengan warna rambut gelap yang akan menjadi tipe targetnya pada semua korbannya di masa depan. Ted kini terjun ke dunia politik. Ia terlibat dalam kampanye politik gubernur Dan Evans dan dia dianggap seperti bintang yang sedang naik daun di Partai Republik Washington. Dan banyak orang meramalkan bahwa Ted akan menjadi Kennedy muda untuk Partai Republik.
He had a good future. He was interested in politics. He worked in one of the campaigns, the Republican governor, I believe was. You could certainly enjoy having a beer with him and talking politics or whatever.
Tetapi di tahun pertamanya menjadi tidak sesuai harapan. Kampanye politik yang dia dukung gagal dan kekasihnya Stephanie memutuskannya karena menganggap Ted tidak cukup fokus dalam mengejar cita-citanya menjadi orang sukses di dunia politik dan melanjutkan kuliah di bidang hukum untuk menjadi pengacara hebat. Akhirnya kekasihnya memutuskan hubungannya dengan Ted dan itu sangat menghancurkan perasaan Ted. Ted terpukul oleh perpisahan itu dan putus kuliah selama sisa tahunnya. Tetapi dia akhirnya muncul kembali dengan fokus baru. Ted mengubah jurusannya ke psikologi. Ia juga kini punya kekasih baru, Elizabeth Kendall atau Liz. Liz adalah sekretaris berusia 24 tahun yang lulus dari Utah State University. Ia adalah seorang janda yang memiliki seorang putri yang tinggal bersamanya.
It was my first night that I went out dancing in Seattle. We found a babysitter for my daughter, and we went to a tavern in the U District called the Sandpiper. I noticed just a really good-looking man. He was sitting at the table by himself, and he said his name was Ted. I was flattered when he asked me to dance. Really had my eye on him all night, basically. We did dance, and then that was the end of it. So I was thinking maybe he was going to ask me again, but he didn't. And I went over and started talking to him. As a single mom, I never wanted to be bringing men home, but I was too drunk to drive, really. And I said, "So will you spend the night here?" And he said, "Yes." So I just laid down on the top of my bed without changing my clothes or anything. But he didn't try to kiss me or do any of that. When I got up in the morning, he had gotten Molly up, and he was fixing breakfast for both of us. And it just was like, oh my gosh. It just took my breath away, basically.
I remember meeting him the first night when he came home with my mom to our house, and he read me my favorite book, which I had memorized. It was called teddy bear from Bumpkin Hollow. He would read along and he would say Freddy Bear, and I'd say not Freddy Bear, teddy bear, and just make it ridiculous, and I would laugh, and I thought he was delightful.
My daughter had a lot of friends in our neighborhood, and so Ted was really fun with them. He'd play with them. He'd get a hose, and they'd all get their little umbrellas, and they'd be in their swimming suits, and he'd make rain for them on the lawn, and of course the kids loved it. He taught my daughter how to ride her bike.
He ran along. Well, actually, let me start at this. He did not like it that I had training wheels on my bike. And so he took these wheels off my bike, and he would hold on to the back of it and run down the alleyway with me. And I trusted him 100%. I mean, he gave you his entire self. And, you know, for a kid, that's everything. For somebody to pay exquisite attention to your experience is what you're looking for. And I could see he lit my mom up like a woman in love. And that just made sense. We were like a family. That's what I remember.
My name is Rich Bundy, and I was Ted Bundy's little brother. We were more than just brothers, you know, we were close friends. You know, I really look forward to spending time with him, which I did a lot of. Spend weekends with him, and summer vacations from school, I'd go live with him for most of the summer vacation. He was living in Seattle, and he'd have me come up there, spend a weekend, a couple of times a month. You know, we'd go over and pick up Liz and Molly and get the raft out. And okay, I got the basket. Okay, doo-doo-doo. You know, here we go. We were very close. I did love him.
Ted just adored Richard. Always wanted to take him places and do things with him. We would frequently go, me and Ted and Molly and Richard, we'd go raft down certain rivers. And so it was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of rafting. I know that Richard looked up to him and kind of held him in awe. My parents loved him. He was just really it, in my opinion. And I really wanted to marry him.
Tetapi apa yang Liz tidak tahu adalah bahwa kekasihnya yang tampaknya sempurna memiliki sisi gelap yang mengerikan. Pada bulan Juni tahun 1972, Ted Bundy lulus dari Universitas Washington dengan gelarnya di bidang psikologi, dan nampaknya ini menjadi bekalnya menjadi iblis bertampang tampan paling kejam yang cerdas dan pandai memainkan perannya di tengah masyarakat. Ted Bundy ingin mencitrakan dirinya sebagai orang baik. Ia bergaul di lingkungan orang-orang baik. Ia muncul sebagai pria penyayang keluarga saat ia hidup bersama kekasihnya, Liz, dan putri kecil Liz, Molly. Bahkan Ted sempat masuk ke dalam berita harian umum yang menyebutnya sebagai pahlawan yang baik hati. Ketika Ted membantu seorang wanita yang telah dicopet dompetnya di sebuah mall, dan Ted mampu melumpuhkan pencuri tersebut hingga mengembalikan dompet yang berisi $30 pada wanita itu. Hingga suatu ketika, ia memutuskan bahwa ia tidak ingin menikah. Ia tidak ingin menjadi seorang gubernur atau apapun itu. Ia hanya ingin meluapkan hasrat gelapnya yang terpendam selama ini sebagai pembunuh berantai yang akan menyebabkan lebih dari 100 orang berakhir di tangannya. Seorang gadis cantik yang berbakat dalam musik, berusia 21 tahun, Linda Ann Healy. Ia adalah seorang mahasiswi yang cukup populer karena ia adalah penyiar radio di stasiun radio lokal yang melaporkan tentang ski setiap hari dari hari Senin hingga Jumat. Dan seperti biasanya, Linda Ann Healy akan mengudara setiap pukul 7 pagi. Tetapi pada pagi ini, Linda tidak pernah muncul ke tempat kerjanya. Pada malam sebelumnya, Linda Ann Healy pergi bersama teman-temannya ke sebuah bar bernama Dentist. Ketika Linda berpamitan pada teman-temannya untuk pulang sendiri lebih awal, Rupanya Ted Bundy mengikutinya pulang. Dan secara kebetulan, pintu rumah itu tidak terkunci. Ted masuk melalui ruang bawah tanah dan ia mengendap-endap masuk ke kamar Linda. Dan di kamar inilah sesuatu yang mengerikan menimpa Linda Ann Healy. Setelah keadaan Linda sama sekali tidak berdaya, Ted mulai membopongnya menuju ke mobilnya yang telah ia parkir tidak terlalu jauh dari rumah tersebut. Dan malam itu adalah akhir bagi kehidupan Linda Ann Healy. Setelah Linda tidak pernah muncul di tempat kerjanya, ia juga tidak muncul di kelas kuliahnya pada hari itu. Teman Linda mulai mengkhawatirkannya. Lalu ia pun segera menghubungi polisi. Dan ketika polisi datang untuk memeriksa kamar Linda, polisi menemukan hal yang membingungkan.
Then when the police came, they discovered blood on the pillow, blood on the top sheet, blood on a nightgown in the closet. So they had quite a bit of evidence that something had happened there.
Selama 6 bulan, polisi Seattle bekerja keras untuk memecahkan misteri hilangnya gadis berusia 21 tahun itu. Beberapa bulan kemudian, polisi menemukan jasad yang sudah tidak lagi utuh. Hanya berupa tengkorak manusia. Tidak ada bagian tubuh lain yang ditemukan. Tetapi catatan gigi dari tulang rahangnya teridentifikasi bahwa itu adalah Linda Ann Healy. Namun itu hanyalah permulaan, karena kemudian satu demi satu para wanita muda lainnya mulai menghilang dan menjadi mimpi buruk yang nyata yang akan berakhir mengenaskan. Hilangnya para wanita muda terus terjadi, seperti yang menimpa pada Donna Manson. Gadis berusia 19 tahun itu tiba-tiba menghilang dari Evergreen State College di Olympia. Dan kemudian Susan Rancourt dari Central Washington di Ellensburg yang sedang dalam perjalanan menuju pertemuan untuk membahas tentang menjadi konselor asrama. Tetapi ia tidak pernah tiba. Gadis berusia 18 tahun itu menghilang saat dia berjalan melintasi kampusnya pada malam hari.
That's the thing, that Ted Bundy's victims were good people. Upstanding college girls who were willing to be helpful. But then again, Ted Bundy wasn't your average serial killer.
Mimpi buruk bagi para wanita muda terus berlanjut. Kini seorang mahasiswi berusia 22 tahun di Oregon State University, Roberta Kathleen, yang telah menghilang secara misterius. Lalu wanita yang menghilang berikutnya adalah Brenda Ball. Gadis berusia 22 tahun ini menghilang saat dia meninggalkan kedai kopi di sebuah daerah di Seattle. Tetapi ia bukan seorang mahasiswi, sehingga dapat disimpulkan bahwa si pelaku tidak hanya mengincar mahasiswi, tetapi gadis-gadis cantik yang ia temui secara acak. Georgene Hawkins adalah seorang mahasiswi di Universitas Washington. Gadis cantik berusia 18 tahun ini yang hanya beberapa hari lagi menyelesaikan tahun pertama kuliahnya menghilang secara misterius saat dia berjalan di asrama mahasiswi setelah mengunjungi teman sesama mahasiswi. Pada malam itu, Georgene sedang berjalan di sebuah gang di belakang asrama mahasiswinya. Lalu dia berpapasan dengan pria yang tampak sedang kesulitan membawa barang-barangnya. Lalu si pria itu meminta bantuannya untuk membawakan sebagian barang-barangnya menuju ke mobilnya. Dan Georgene bersedia membantunya. Dan di saat Georgene memasukkan buku-buku ke dalam mobil Volkswagen, di sana pula lah akhir dari hidupnya. Jasad Georgene Hawkins tidak pernah ditemukan. Sementara Ted Bundy melanjutkan hubungan dengan kekasihnya, Liz. Pada saat ini, polisi tidak menemukan petunjuk apapun. karena tidak ada dari mereka yang melihat para gadis muda yang hilang itu pergi bersama dengan siapapun. Tetapi setiap mahasiswi yang menghilang memiliki kesamaan. Mereka memiliki rambut panjang, bertubuh langsing, dan berpenampilan menarik, mirip dengan mantan kekasih impian Ted Bundy, Stephanie.
Ted Bundy was charming. He was intelligent. He was good looking. There was just one thing wrong with him. He liked to murder women. Ted Bundy had a type. Pretty young girls with their hair parted in the middle.
It was almost as if Bundy was trying to gain revenge over this particular woman, a particular class, a particular type of woman. It was almost as if he was on a mission.
6 wanita muda menghilang begitu saja. Hanya menyisakan pertanyaan, bagaimana mereka bisa diculik tanpa perlawanan, tanpa petunjuk dan tanpa saksi-saksi.
A wave of fear swept all across the state of Washington.
Hawkins was last seen Monday evening
when someone was abducting young women.
There was incredible pressure on law enforcement to find the person who was responsible for causing these women to go missing. It was an ultimate challenge.
Thank you very much for calling. Anything?
Satu bulan setelah malam mengenaskan menimpa Georgian Hawkins, Ted Bundy tiba di Taman Danau Samamis di Issaquah, Washington. Hari Minggu di bulan Juli cuaca begitu panas dan Taman Danau Samamis ini selalu ramai di akhir pekan. Orang-orang akan berantri dengan mobilnya untuk mencoba mendapatkan salah satu tempat parkir. Tempat wisata anak muda ini adalah taman yang sangat luas dan daerah yang paling ramai dikunjungi di negara bagian ini. Janice Oates, gadis berusia 23 tahun yang baru saja pindah ke daerah itu untuk mengambil pekerjaan barunya, sedang berjemur di pinggir danau. Ketika itu ia sedang sendirian. Lalu ia didekati oleh Ted Bundy yang meminta bantuannya untuk menurunkan kano di mobilnya. Karena tangannya yang digips membuatnya sulit. Janice tidak tahu bahwa gips itu adalah palsu. Dan ketika Janice sampai di mobil Volkswagen milik Ted Bundy, yang ternyata tidak ada kano di atas mobilnya itu, di sanalah Ted Bundy membuatnya pingsan dan memasukkannya ke dalam mobil, seperti pada korban-korban lainnya. Dan pada hari itu adalah hari akhir dari hidup Janice.
There were 40,000 people out here on that day, and some of them recall that Janice Ott had been asked by a good-looking young man wearing an arm cast to help her load his sailboat on the car in the parking lot beyond.
Tetapi kejadian luar biasa di hari yang panas pada saat ini tidak akan berakhir dengan hanya menghilangnya Janice Oates. Hanya beberapa jam kemudian, ketika 40.000 orang sedang bersukaria di bawah sinar matahari, Ted Bundy kembali dengan begitu santai dan bebasnya. Ia berkeliaran di tengah para pengunjung. Pada sore itu, Dennis Nesland, gadis cantik berusia 18 tahun, sedang berada di sana bersama pacarnya dan pasangan lainnya. Lalu dia harus pergi ke kamar kecil, dan dia pergi sendiri. Lalu ia didekati oleh Ted Bundy yang meminta bantuannya. Tetapi Dennis tidak pernah terlihat lagi. Ted Bundy telah membawa 2 wanita muda itu dari lokasi yang sama pada hari yang sama di siang hari bolong.
Those abductions were very brazen and in front of literally thousands of witnesses, but the witnesses did not know what they were seeing.
Tetapi di Danau Samamis itulah Ted Bundy membuat kesalahan pertamanya. polisi segera melakukan pencarian besar-besaran atas menghilangnya dua wanita muda ini di lokasi yang sama dengan menggunakan helikopter dan anjing pelacak di sekitar 400 hektar Taman Danau Samamis. Tetapi tidak ada jejak yang ditemukan. Dua gadis itu menghilang begitu saja.
I recall her boyfriend who'd been at the park with her that day. I remember him being there during the search and leaning on his car and just crying, just sobbing that it was, fearing the worst.
Walaupun demikian, pada hari itu di Taman Danau Samamis begitu ramai pengunjung, sehingga tidak begitu sulit untuk mencari informasi dari para pengunjung untuk menyusun profil orang yang dicurigai. Dan mereka segera mengidentifikasi bahwa orang tersebut adalah Ted.
Publication of the description of the man called Ted. There have been no further disappearances from this area. John Sandifer for ABC News in Seattle.
Sejumlah orang di sana sempat mendengar saat Ted Bundy memperkenalkan dirinya pada Janice Oath dan melihat Janice pergi dengan Ted. Dalam seminggu, polisi telah berhasil membuat gambar sketsa sesuai yang digambarkan oleh para saksi. Berikut mobil Volkswagen Beetle yang disebutkan banyak saksi.
Much described the same person.
Young, handsome,
White t-shirt, white shorts,
well-spoken, neatly dressed,
white socks, white tennis shoes, and his arm was in a sling.
We got together all the information that we had. We looked at it and determined who are the most likely suspects of all of the names that we have learned of. And we felt confident that the individual was very likely among the 1,000 names that we had. And that would be individuals who had Volkswagen Bugs, who potentially were named Ted, people who were the right age, right physical description, people that were familiar with the University of Washington District and Lake Sammamish Park. And we called out 100 people that we thought met most of those criteria.
Meskipun memiliki nama dan deskripsi untuk tersangka, tetapi tidak ada seorang pun yang mengenalnya yang akan menghubungkan dengan Ted Bundy, pemuda karismatik yang bertanggung jawab atas menghilangnya 8 wanita muda pada saat ini. Polisi mengumpulkan daftar 100 pria dengan nama Ted dan memiliki ciri-ciri lain yang mungkin menghubungkan mereka dengan kejahatan di Washington. Mereka menyelidiki nama-nama tersebut dan Ted Bundy berada di urutan ke-7. Tetapi Ted Bundy tidak lagi berada di negara bagian Washington. Dengan tersebarnya gambar di semua media tentang pelaku bernama Ted yang bertanggung jawab atas menghilangnya 2 gadis di hari yang sama di Danau Samamis, Ted menyadari bahwa jika ia ingin melanjutkan hasrat iblisnya itu, ia harus pergi ke suatu tempat yang tidak ada penyelidikan terkait dengannya. Dan Ted Bundy memutuskan untuk pindah dari Washington menuju ke Utah. Dan dia mulai mengubah taktiknya. Ia pindah ke Utah dengan alasan untuk melanjutkan sekolah hukum, agar cita-citanya sebagai pengacara hebat bisa ia wujudkan. Saat itu, Liz memang tampak keberatan. Ia menangis sepanjang waktu, tapi kemudian ia merelakan kekasihnya pergi. Dan hal yang di luar dugaan, saat Liz melepaskan kepergian Ted Bundy ke Utah, kala itu Ted memakai pakaian yang sama dengan apa yang ia kenakan pada saat ia pergi ke Danau Samamis dan menghilangkan 2 gadis muda. Setelah kepergian Ted Bundy ke Utah, Liz mulai melihat gambar sketsa yang disebarkan di media. Dan Liz mengenali nama dan deskripsi yang diduga si pelaku bernama Ted, serta mobil Volkswagen-nya. Liz lalu menghubungi polisi untuk memberikan informasi, tetapi polisi tidak segera mengkaitkannya. Karena pada saat ini, polisi menerima sekitar 200 telepon dari masyarakat setiap harinya yang memberikan informasi terkait si pelaku.
There was something about it that just grabbed my attention. There was just something about the jawline or something like that that made me think, wow.
And you called Seattle police?
Yeah, I called anonymously to a tip line that they had set up.
My friend and myself commented when it came up that summer that there was a clue of somebody by the name of Ted that had a Volkswagen, and we commented and joked that maybe it's Ted because he's never here, but of course that was really something we didn't consider because of his characteristics. You would never imagine that he would be involved in something like that.
Did you ever ask Ted, are you concerned about the similarities?
In the very beginning, I asked him, I said, did you read this? Do you know what they're saying? There's so many things here that people are going to be looking at you, kind of making a joke out of it. But once I started to worry, like, could this be true? I didn't feel safe bringing it up. I didn't want him to know what I was thinking.
2 bulan setelah Janice Ott dan Dennis Neslen menghilang, Detektif Robert Keppel dan rekannya Roger Dunn yang sedang berada dalam mobil mendengar radio komunikasi yang melaporkan ada penemuan beberapa sisa-sisa tulang manusia di sebelah timur Issaquah, 6 miles dari Danau Sammamish. Lantas mereka segera menuju lokasi. Detektif Robert Keppel memimpin pencarian. Ia dan tim bantuan kepolisian lainnya bahu-membahu mencari keseluruhan sisa-sisa tulang belulang manusia selama 7 hari lamanya. Karena tulang-tulang manusia tersebut tidak utuh, hingga mereka harus mencari sisanya.
What do you got there, Bob?
Just more bones so far.
Got teeth in it?
Yes. We had a jawbone of one of the women, skull and a jawbone of another woman. Jawbones which had been fractured. We had a skull that was fractured.
Dan ternyata tulang belulang yang tidak utuh tersebut adalah jasad yang telah hancur dari Janice Ott dan Dennis Neslen, 2 wanita muda yang menghilang pada hari yang sama di Danau Sammamish.
It was just bones, no flesh. We also found hair that was blonde. That was Janice Ott's hair. We also found some black hair, which was Denise Neslen's hair, right near where her skull was found.
I think everyone was as horrified as I was covering it. What kind of a guy would do this? What kind of an animal would do this?
Sementara Ted Bundy pada pertengahan September 1974 ini, ia dalam perjalanan menuju kota Salt Lake. Ia telah diterima di Universitas Utah sebagai mahasiswa Fakultas Hukum. Dan di kota ini, para wanita muda mulai menghilang secara misterius dengan cara yang sama seperti di Washington. Dan kali ini, Ted Bundy tampak mempersiapkan segalanya untuk melengkapi perburuannya mendapatkan korban yang diincarnya dengan membeli berbagai peralatan yang menunjang hasrat iblisnya itu. Ia mulai merencanakannya dengan begitu hati-hati dan memakai semua peralatan yang ia miliki dan ia gunakan dari setiap peralatannya tersebut pada korban-korbannya.
It was as well planned as military action. Every time he selected a murder to do, he had procedures that he followed. He had certain tools that he brought with him. He had everything laid out completely, and he thought through all this stuff. He did very well at getting away and avoiding being arrested and avoiding law enforcement. He was a master predator.
Dan para korbannya tersebut adalah Nancy Wilcox, berusia 16 tahun, Melissa Smith, berusia 17 tahun, dan Laura Aim, berusia 17 tahun. Dan mereka semua menghilang secara misterius di bulan yang sama pada bulan Oktober 1974. Dan Ted melakukannya dengan cara yang lebih kejam lagi. Ia juga melakukan sesuatu yang sangat tidak wajar pada tubuhnya. Bahkan Ted memotretnya sebagai kenang-kenangan. hasad iblisnya kini sudah semakin tidak terkendali.
In 5 cases, he took the girls and kept them as souvenirs.
Dan di kota ini, di mana belum banyak yang tahu tentang dirinya, Ted merasa perlu untuk membangun citranya sebagai orang baik. Ted lalu mulai sering pergi ke gereja. Ia benar-benar telah memerankan perannya sebagai iblis yang sempurna, sehingga selalu luput dari perhatian penegak hukum.
He was very outgoing, very friendly, great cook. Ladies liked him. He was somewhat of a handsome guy. We did a lot socially with Ted. One evening we decided to have dinner at Ted's house. Ted was a gourmet cook. And at the time, the newspapers around here had published a lot of stories about what they called the Ted murderer. And they had a composite picture. As guys, we were laughing about what we would do with this guy if we caught him. Anyway, we started to laugh, and Ted said, well, I know how a person could get away with this. He said, you could person in one county, throw her body in another one, her clothing in a third county, and tools or whatever in another county, and no one would ever communicate. So if an officer found bloody clothing somewhere, that's where it ended. They didn't connect to other counties. And we didn't even think that odd at the time. We just laughed and thought it was funny. Looking back, I think he was taunting us, trying to say, I've done this, you can't even take a hint.
Bundy went to the University of Utah School of Law. When I was there at the law school, I would have regular contact with Ted Bundy, and everyone really liked him. There were periods of time when he was absent from class, and people would occasionally comment on that, oh, Ted's gone again.
The first semester, he's in class 3 times.
If serial killers came with horns on their heads, we could avoid them. Unfortunately, serial killers are often very charming, very seducing. So we shouldn't imagine somehow serial killers are Hollywood devils, because actually it's the banality of evil that we're dealing with in serial killers.
He didn't look like a criminal. He didn't act like a criminal. He knew how to do the right things to appear the right way.
Tetapi pada kali ini, Ted Bundy membuat kesalahan besarnya ketika ia mencoba membawa lari Carol Durant. Gadis cantik yang baru lulus SMA ini pergi ke pusat perbelanjaan Fashion Mall Murray di Utah yang berjarak hanya beberapa miles dari rumahnya. Lalu ia didekati oleh Ted Bundy yang mengaku sebagai polisi.
My name's Carol Ann Durant, and I was kidnapped by Ted Bundy in November of 1974. I walked through the mall and was looking in the bookstore window. And a man had come up to me and introduced himself as a police officer. He said his name was Officer Roseland and told me that they had caught someone trying to break into my car. So he asked me if I wanted to go out to my car with him and see if anything was gone. He got a handcuff on one of my wrists. We were struggling. He never got it on the other wrist. I was punching and screaming and just fighting, and all my fingernails were broken. I knew he was going to kill me. His face and the way he was acting, he was just crazy. He turned into a monster. And finally, I saw a gun and he said, "Your head off." And I just thought to myself, go ahead, I'm not going with you. And at that point, I somehow got my hand on the door and was able to get out the passenger side. And we struggled outside of the car. I could feel a crowbar in his hand. I had my arm up, struggling with him, so he went hit me with it. And at that point, a car started coming the opposite direction. And I was able to run out to the street of his car, and I just flung open their door and jumped in on him.
Carol goes to the police, and now for the first time ever, they have an eyewitness account that tells how Ted Bundy hunts these women and what he does once he's got them.
Shortly after 7 o'clock on the evening of November the 8th, 1974, Carol Durant parked her car in this parking lot at the Fashion Mall. Shortly after began what she now calls her personal nightmare.
Ternyata firasat Carol bahwa si pelaku yang mengendarai mobil VW-nya menuju kota Bountiful akan mencari gadis lain untuk menjadi korbannya nyata terjadi. Gadis malang itu bernama Deborah Kent, berusia 17 tahun. Ia menghilang ketika orang tuanya yang sedang menonton acara pertunjukan di sekolah putrinya itu meminta Deborah untuk menjemput adiknya di arena ice skating. Tetapi Deborah tidak pernah kembali dan mobilnya masih terparkir di pelataran parkir sekolah SMA-nya itu.
We searched the area and we found a handcuff key, and it was determined that it was the same handcuff key markings that were made by the handcuffs that were taken from the wrist of Carol Durant only 2 hours prior to Deborah Kent missing and found.
Sometimes the urges become such a compulsion that they can't control themselves. And that's when they make mistakes. His compulsion that day was so high, he had to kill somebody. The first one didn't work out. He's now frustrated, and so he goes to find a second victim.
Sementara pada saat ini polisi dari beberapa wilayah yang mendapati kasus misteri hilangnya para wanita muda ini tidak pernah ada komunikasi satu sama lain. Mereka berpikir bahwa kejahatan itu tidak berkaitan dengan kejahatan serupa yang terjadi di kota lainnya. Enam bulan kemudian, tulang belulang jasad manusia ditemukan di Issaquah ketika beberapa mahasiswa kehutanan dari Green River Community College menemukan pecahan tengkorak berserakan di Taylor Mountain.
Nowhere in the history of King County or Washington State had there ever been two crime scenes like these. 4 skulls or skull parts are found on Taylor Mountain and no other bones were found. There were no backbones, there were no rib bones, no leg bones, no arm bones, nothing. Somewhere he disposed of all of the clothing, purses, any of the stuff that belonged to any of the victims. What we did have were victims that had been stabbed. Other victims had head damage.
This was something that was a habit for him, was a compulsion for him, and there's nothing scarier than that.
He said, I always tried to get rid of all the evidence that would put me to the crime. I said that meant I had to restock my toolkit all the time.
The skulls of 4 women were found on Taylor Mountain. Linda Ann Healy, Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks, and Brenda Ball.
Penemuan jasad-jasad wanita muda di Taylor Mountain itu menjadi pengingat Ted untuk mencari lahan baru dalam rangka memperluas kejahatannya, dan ia memilih Colorado, daerah yang belum banyak membicarakan tentang wanita-wanita muda yang hilang. Ted lalu pergi ke pegunungan di Colorado, ke tempat resort ski, dan ia sangat familiar dengan daerah ini, yang memang sangat populer dihuni oleh para pendatang dan para wisatawan yang hendak berlibur bermain ski. Dan lagi-lagi, seorang wanita muda menghilang tanpa jejak. Wanita muda malang itu bernama Karen Campbell. Ia adalah seorang perawat dari Michigan yang baru sehari tiba di daerah ini bersama tunangannya Dr. Raymond Gaddafi. Pada malam itu, Karen dan tunangannya baru selesai makan malam dan mereka duduk di lobi di depan perapian. Lalu sekitar pukul 8 malam, Karen pergi sendiri menuju kamarnya untuk mengambil majalah. Karen lalu masuk ke lift, Dan itu adalah saat terakhir tunangannya melihat Karen. Dan di saat yang sama, Ted Bundy juga tinggal di penginapan yang sama.
A young woman named Karen Campbell had been murdered in Aspen, Colorado. When police searched Ted Bundy's car, they found a map that had an X on the same resort where Karen Campbell had been staying. They found credit card receipts that put him there at the same time that she was there. And most damning of all, they found one of her hairs in his car.
2 months later, he heads over to Vail and ends up with 26-year-old ski instructor Julie Cunningham.
He was just not going to stop. He had more relationships with dead women by now than living women. It was all about the hunt.
Bundy goes on this spree across the Northwest and he kills 3 women, a 24-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old.
Untuk sobat semua, sebelum lanjut ada baiknya untuk mengklik terlebih dahulu tombol like, share, dan subscribe, serta tombol notifikasinya, agar tak ketinggalan update kisah nyata tak biasa dari K-Channel selanjutnya. Pada saat ini, Ted Bundy telah mengakhiri hidup 29 wanita-wanita muda. Tetapi setelah 9 bulan kejadian yang menimpa Carol DeRonge, keberuntungan Ted Bundy tidak lagi berpihak padanya. Pada suatu malam, Ted yang mengendari mobil Volkswagen-nya menarik perhatian polisi Salt Lake City, Utah, hingga ia diberhentikan oleh polisi. Ted dicurigai melakukan perampokan karena terdapat peralatan yang tidak wajar dalam bagasi mobilnya. Lalu ia ditangkap dan didakwa melakukan pelanggaran ringan, yaitu menghindari petugas polisi dan kepemilikan peralatan perampokan berupa topeng ski hitam, stocking dengan 2 lubang untuk mata, potongan tali, alat pemecah es, linggis, beberapa kantong plastik, dan borgol. Kemudian polisi mulai mewaspadai karena gadis yang hilang di kota Bountiful. Polisi menemukan kunci borgol di mobilnya. Tetapi kemudian kasusnya menjadi berkembang karena borgol juga digunakan pada Carol DeRonge, gadis yang berhasil selamat. Lalu Ted Bundy masuk dalam barisan foto pelaku yang dicurigai dan Carol DeRonge mampu mengenalinya. Ted Bundy lalu ditangkap atas kejahatannya terhadap Carol DeRonge. Dan Ted Bundy terancam dijatuhi hukuman antara 1 hingga 15 tahun. Dan kini, kepolisian King County dan Salt Lake City mulai berkomunikasi setelah penangkapan Ted Bundy, karena dalam kasus hampir setahun sebelumnya tentang hilangnya 2 gadis di Danau Samamis, tersangka utamanya mengarah pada Ted Bundy. Setelah kabar penangkapan Ted Bundy, kekasihnya, Liz, segera menghubungi polisi, dan polisi mulai mewawancarainya.
The more Liz thinks about it, the less normal her boyfriend really is, and the creepier he is. He stays up all night. He doesn't tell her where he's been. He's not interested in sex unless it's bondage, and if she doesn't want to participate in bondage, he gets angry. She called police and said, "I think I know who the killer is."
Just subtle changes where I felt like maybe I was losing him.
You thought maybe, worst case scenario, he's seeing someone else.
Yes. Never in my dreams did I think he was out stalking women and then eventually marrying women.
Picture appeared, the task force received 1 call among thousands of others. This particular caller said a man named Ted Bundy looked, quote, something like the picture.
Liz turned in Ted, and the police never did anything with it.
She called the police more than once, stating that she believed her boyfriend, Ted Bundy, was the killer.
The response that we received from the general public was over 500 calls a day, and we received over 3,000 possible suspects. How do you handle that volume of information?
Thank you very much for calling. Anything?
So we started a task force nicknamed the GBU, which stood for the Grizzly Business Unit.
Selain Liz yakin bahwa sang kekasih adalah pelakunya, banyak juga serba kebetulan. Saat gadis-gadis menghilang di beberapa kota, Ted juga kebetulan berada di kota-kota tersebut. Liz juga mengaku merasa malu karena semua teman-temannya dan keluarganya mengetahui bahwa pria yang telah ditangkap itu adalah kekasihnya yang telah menjalani hubungan selama 5 tahun.
My friend came back from Utah and she said, I don't want to scare you, but it's happening down there now.
What did that feel like?
Oh my God, like the bottom of my world was falling out. It's like that's just too much of a coincidence. So I did call King County Police and I did meet with the detective. I gave them some pictures of him and they showed him to the best witness from Lake Sammamish.
Tetapi hampir semua keluarga, teman-temannya termasuk pengacaranya, tidak mempercayai bahwa Ted adalah orang yang terlibat dalam kejahatan semacam itu. Bahkan teman-temannya memberikan dukungan dengan menggalang dana untuk kebebasan Ted. Karena mereka menganggap polisi telah salah tangkap orang.
He was a likable guy, and if he could be a killer, well, who else might be? So people just didn't want to believe it.
I helped raise money to bail him out of jail. Everybody in the ward felt he was innocent.
I was assigned Ted Bundy's case by the Office of Public Defense. Ted immediately said something, well, there's this silly little case in Utah. And I remember saying, no, it's not a silly little case, Ted.
How do you feel about the justice system in general, based on your experience?
Well, I'm sure it works, and you've got to have faith it'll work, or else you'd be reduced to some kind of, mumbling idiot. I believe it works. I believe it needs to be improved.
When you mention improvements, does that mean ultimately you want to get involved in the criminal justice system?
Yes, I intend to complete my legal education and become a lawyer and be a damn good lawyer.
He was an arrogant, basically. And that's the way he came across on the stand.
30-year-old Theodore Robert Bundy will stand trial today for the attempted kidnapping of Murray native Carol DeRonch in November of 1974. The case against Mr. Bundy, a law student from Seattle, Washington, hinges on the identification made by Ms. DeRonch at Salt Lake City Police Headquarters. Mr. Bundy denies all charges.
Ted Bundy was very arrogant in the courtroom, always had a smile and smirk on his face. He liked to be in control, and I think he liked the show.
I'll plead not guilty right now.
I pointed at him, said he was the one, he was the man that tried to kidnap me.
Tetapi sebesar apapun dukungan teman-temannya, tidak bisa membendung keputusan akhir pengadilan yang menyatakan Ted Bundy bersalah.
Ted Bundy was convicted of kidnapping Carol DeRonch.
Bundy got his verdict that he was guilty. He was going to be headed to a Utah state prison.
Setelah hampir 1,5 tahun sejak kejahatan yang dilakukan oleh Ted Bundy terhadap Carol DeRonch, Ted Bundy dinyatakan bersalah. Ia menjalani hukumannya di penjara Utah. Dan di saat yang bersamaan, Ted telah didakwa atas kematian Karen Campbell di Colorado.
Ted Bundy, a Washington State resident, was convicted last year of the kidnapping of a young woman from Salt Lake City.
After Bundy's convicted of the kidnapping of Carol DeRonch, detectives have found evidence linking him to Karen Campbell.
Heirs in his Volkswagen Bug were of victims from Colorado and Utah.
And that gave them enough evidence to file on him in Colorado with a first-degree murder charge.
They transferred him. They took him to the jail in Aspen.
Oh, come on, guys.
Ted Bundy is serving a 1 to 15-year term at the Utah State Prison. In a surprise move today, authorities in Colorado have charged Bundy with the first-degree murder of Karen Campbell. On January 12, 1975, Miss Campbell went missing from the Wildwood Inn, Aspen. On January 17th, her body was found almost 3 miles away.
I called the sheriff. I asked him if I could speak with Ted Bundy. We sat in this narrow cell and did the interview.
Okay. You are not guilty.
I'm not guilty. Does that include the time I stole a comic book when I was 5 years old?
He had such a pleasant, thoughtful, calm demeanor. I wasn't at all convinced that he was guilty. He's the most pleasant killer I've ever interviewed.
No man is truly innocent. We all have transgressed in some way in our lives. I've been impolite, and there are things I regret having done in my life.
The creeps kind of grew on me when he talked about feeling for the family.
I've been told that the parents of these girls are fairly decent people. I don't know, and I really feel for them because apparently they've suffered an incredible tragedy in their lives.
I asked him if his situation made him angry, and he said yes.
I don't like being locked up for something I didn't do, and I don't like my liberty taken away, and I don't like being treated like an animal, and I don't like people walking around and ogling me like I'm some sort of weirdo, because I'm not.
You think about getting out of here?
Well, legally, sure.
Ted Bundy dipindahkan dari penjara Utah ke Colorado untuk menghadapi dakwaannya atas kasus melarikan secara paksa dan mengakhiri hidup Karen Campbell yang berusia 24 tahun di Snowmass. Ted akan diadili di Aspen. Jika terbukti, dia akan menjalani sisa hidupnya di balik jeruji besi. Tetapi Ted Bundy mempunyai rencana lain. Pada sidang Ted Bundy yang dimulai hari ini, ia mengajukan petisi kepada pengadilan untuk mengizinkannya membela dirinya. Karena secara hukum, ia akan membela dirinya di pengadilan, maka Ted diberikan akses penuh dengan begitu leluasa di dalam perpustakaan untuk bahan penelitian hukum, yang tentunya tetap dalam pengawalan petugas berwenang. Tetapi rupanya, hal ini menjadi kesempatan Ted untuk mendapatkan kebebasannya yang akan mempermalukan petugas kepolisian Colorado dan mengejutkan semua orang. Ted berhasil melarikan diri saat ia sendirian berada di perpustakaan. Dia mampu melompat keluar dari jendela lantai 2 yang terbuka dan melarikan diri menuju ke pegunungan Aspen.
Bundy jumped out of this second-story window at the front of the Pitkin County Courthouse this morning. He was scheduled for a court appearance and apparently had been locked into the law library by sheriff's deputies. At both ends of town, the sheriff's department put up roadblocks.
They were warning people, if you see this man, be sure and call the police.
When was he last seen? Oh, about 10:30 this morning when he jumped from the window.
Selama 8 hari, Ted bersembunyi di hutan belantara, berlindung di sebuah gubuk bekas, dan mencuri makanan dari para pekemah. Sementara para penegak hukum mencarinya dengan panik dan penuh rasa malu. Dengan begitu berani, Ted berjalan kembali menuju ke Aspen dan mencuri sebuah mobil. Saat ini, dia lapar, kurang tidur, dan kakinya terluka. Keberuntungannya pun telah usai. Setelah 8 hari, para petugas kepolisian terus melakukan pencarian hingga ke daerah pegunungan. Lalu ketika polisi mulai turun dari pegunungan, mereka melihat sebuah mobil yang sedang berkendara malam itu. Dalam keadaan lampu mobilnya padam. Lalu polisi segera meminta pengendara mobil tersebut untuk menepikan mobilnya. Polisi segera menghampirinya untuk memeriksa ke dalam mobil tersebut dan menyorotkan lampu senter. lalu meminta si pengendara yang memakai topi yang menutupi wajahnya segera keluar dari mobilnya dan membuka topinya. Dan pada saat inilah polisi mengenali wajah dari buronan yang sedang dicarinya. Polisi lantas segera menangkapnya dan Ted Bundy dikembalikan ke penjara Garfield County di Glenwood Springs, Colorado.
Hi, Ted.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Here.
Judge George Lohr advised him of additional charges: escape, second-degree burglary, misdemeanor theft, and felony theft. If Bundy is convicted of these counts, he could spend up to 90 years in prison.
I was a teenager when he was arrested, and I didn't really see the escaping as him being full-on guilty. Because, he knew I was a kid. I was being stupid and naive. I was thinking like the fugitive story.
I didn't personally like him. I thought he was a cockroach. I'm sorry, but that's how I viewed him. A charming cockroach.
Enam bulan setelah Ted Bundy melarikan diri dari Pitkin County, Colorado, ia yang kini berusia 31 tahun kembali berada di penjara, namun kini dengan tingkat keamanan maksimum. Saat ini Ted terlihat sangat kurus, tetapi rupanya tubuh kurusnya itu memang sengaja ia lakukan. Program penurunan badan yang drastis hingga turun 15 kilo ini sebagai bagian dari rencananya untuk kembali melarikan diri. Untuk kedua kalinya, Ted Bundy berhasil melarikan diri melalui lubang di langit-langit yang berukuran 12 inci, di mana terdapat lampu neon yang menempel. Dan Ted menaiki tumpukan buku yang telah ia susun untuk dapat mencapai lubang tersebut.
Did you think it was possible to get out this way?
At that time, any possible escape route from the roof. However, we were wrong.
We're looking everywhere, trains, buses, and the usual thing. I have no idea where he is. People should be very careful, should check on their neighbors, make sure their cars are secure.
Pelarian Ted adalah sebuah keharusan yang tidak dapat ditunda, karena Ted sudah tidak bisa lagi menahan diri atas dorongan kuatnya untuk kembali menikmati obsesi mengerikannya itu, memburu para wanita muda, membuat mereka terluka, lalu mengakhirinya.
It was of serious concern to us that his desire and need to go was growing while he was in jail.
He's determined. He's going to launch himself into full-time murder, and he's just going to keep doing it until he was captured or killed.
Ted Bundy berhasil melarikan diri dari penjara Garfield County, Colorado. Ia kini tengah melakukan perjalanan dengan menaiki bis, kereta api, mulai dari Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, dan berhenti di Tallahassee, Florida. Dan pada saat ini, FBI telah memasukkan Ted Bundy dalam 10 daftar orang yang paling dicari FBI. Beritapedia pun mulai gempar menyebarkan kepanikan dan ketakutan di seluruh negara bagian barat Amerika Serikat. Iblis yang paling berbahaya bertampang menawan itu kembali bebas ke jalanan.
Every news organization across the country was now interested in Ted Bundy, this young, charming, smart guy who had killed these beautiful women, and now he's on the loose. Nobody knows where he is. Is he in your neighborhood? He could be.
Ted Bundy was rather careful. He thought he was rather smart, and he was. And he tried very hard to conceal his identity in every way that he could. He was brilliant and really operating at genius level.
Dengan identitas baru, Ted Bundy menyewa sebuah kamar di rumah penginapan Oaks yang berada di jantung kawasan mahasiswi Universitas Negeri Florida. 2 minggu setelah pelariannya dari penjara, kini ia bersiap kembali meluapkan hasrat iblisnya yang telah lama tertahan. Dan kali ini, Ia benar-benar melakukannya seperti amukan ikan hiu yang sedang kelaparan. Dan asrama mahasiswi Chi Omega menjadi tempat mengerikan dalam kenangan malam paling tragis yang tidak pernah terlupakan pada 14 Januari 1978 pada pukul 3 dini hari.
Police report the man walked in through an unlocked door, armed with a heavy oak log. He pinned and then killed to death 20-year-old Lisa Levy and 21-year-old Margaret Bowman. One of them was. Then he three more sleeping co-eds, Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner. Cheryl Ann Thomas was severely beaten in her apartment 6 blocks away. Their condition today, serious.
It was a rage. This demon was having a frenzy like a shark.
Lisa had also been bitten on the and on the buttocks.
He went room to room, hitting and smashing the co-eds. He bludgeoned 2 of them to unconsciousness and killed 2 more. He would have killed everybody in the Chi Omega sorority house if he had had the time.
Namun beruntung bagi 2 mahasiswi lainnya, Karen Chandler dan Kathy Kleiner. Mereka baru saja selamat dari amukan tak terkendali Ted Bundy. Dan perbuatan mengerikannya itu yang telah dilakukan Ted Bundy hanya memakan waktu kurang dari 10 menit. Kejadian tersebut telah membuat seistri asrama mahasiswi begitu sangat ketakutan.
And then returned to it with an ease that has so far baffled police and left most co-eds here terrified. I'd rather say we've got a very disturbed, sick individual.
Sekitar 3 minggu setelah malam tragis di asrama mahasiswi Chi Omega, Ted Bundy pergi menuju Lake City, Florida. Kota yang dikenal sebagai kota yang tenang dan aman. Kepergian Ted Bundy menuju Lake City bertepatan dengan adanya laporan pencurian sebuah mobil van Dodge berwarna putih dari Departemen Media Universitas Florida. Di sekolah SMP Lake City ini menjadi saksi bisu atas penghilangnya siswi berusia 12 tahun, Kimberly Leach, pada pukul 9:30 pagi. Kimberly serta teman-teman sekelasnya sedang berada di auditorium. Lalu ia meminta izin untuk kembali ke kelasnya mengambil dompetnya yang tertinggal. Tetapi Kimberly tidak pernah muncul lagi sejak saat itu. Hanya ada dompetnya yang sepertinya ia telah berhasil mengambilnya dan terjatuh. Dompet itu ditemukan di atas tanah. Tetapi pada pagi itu seorang saksi melihat seorang gadis muda menangis karena telah didorong paksa masuk ke dalam sebuah mobil van berwarna putih oleh seorang pria dengan mimik wajahnya yang cemberut. Saksi itu mengira bahwa pria itu adalah orang tuanya yang sedang marah. Dan di pagi yang sama, saksi lain melihat sebuah mobil van putih berbelok hampir tak terkendali di jalan raya dan si pengemudi tampak marah dan berteriak ke arah kursi penumpang. Dan saat itulah semua orang mulai panik. Regu pencarian segera mencari Kimberly. Mereka mencarinya setiap hari dari pagi hingga hari menjelang gelap. Dan 4 hari kemudian, mobil van putih yang dicuri dari universitas tiba-tiba muncul kembali. Dibutuhkan waktu 2 bulan bagi polisi menemukan tubuh Kimberly. Jasadnya ditemukan dibuang di bekas kandang babi di hutan, 2 miles jauhnya dari rumah Kimberly.
We think that he went by Green Acres Sporting Goods store and bought a very large knife, which was a hunting knife. And we believe that he used that when he killed Kimberly.
Pada pukul 1:30 dini hari, kepolisian Pensacola menilang sebuah mobil Volkswagen yang ternyata itu adalah mobil hasil curian yang dikendarai oleh Ted Bundy. Saat itu Ted Bundy mengaku sebagai mahasiswa Universitas Florida. Tetapi kemudian, setelah polisi mengidentifikasi, ternyata pria yang telah ditilangnya adalah buron berbahaya yang paling dicari FBI. Saat itu juga polisi segera menangkap Ted Bundy yang terkait dengan sejumlah kasus pembunuhan, termasuk diduga terkait dengan kasus malam mengenaskan di asrama mahasiswi Chi Omega. Tetapi polisi belum benar-benar memiliki bukti fisik. Mereka hanya memiliki bukti tidak langsung. Karena setiap Ted berada di suatu kota, secara kebetulan di kota-kota tersebut selalu ada kematian para gadis muda secara tidak wajar.
I put my hand on his bicep and I squeezed. And I said, "You're at the Leon County Jail. I'm Sheriff Ken Casares. And you're not going anywhere."
Pensacola, Florida police are questioning a man they say may be one of the worst murderers of all time.
Bundy had escaped New Year's Eve from a Colorado jail where he was a suspect in 36 murders, mostly in the West, over a 7-year period.
Polisi terus menggali lebih dalam untuk mendapatkan bukti kuat atas keyakinannya bahwa Ted adalah pelaku dalam kejadian di asrama Chi Omega. Dan polisi akhirnya mendapatkan petunjuk.
You have to understand that detective work was organized in a very different way in the 70s. There was no DNA evidence. Police departments didn't even have fax machines, let alone the internet.
Walaupun tidak ditemukan sidik jari yang tertinggal di asrama Chi Omega, tetapi ada sesuatu yang memberatkan. Kemudian pihak berwenang mendapat surat perintah pemeriksaan pada mulut Ted Bundy dan mulai membuat cetakan gigi.
So I went to his cell and I said, "You're coming with me." He wanted to know, "Where are we going? What is this? What's this all about?" I said, "You'll find out soon enough." And here are the three men with their white medical smocks on. Behind them is a dental chair, and he started screaming for his attorney.
Bundy is yelling and screaming the entire time. I'm a forensic dentist. I said, "I'm going to put this tray in your mouth." I said, "Now you're not going to bite me, are you, Mr. Bundy?" And he said, "No, I'm a very nonviolent person." So everybody laughed, of course. And that was his attitude of, ha, 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 you know, this is fun and games.
Pada saat ini, Ted Bundy telah melakukan kejahatan luar biasa, kejamnya, pada puluhan wanita muda di 5 negara bagian yang berbeda, dan telah 2 kali melarikan diri dari 2 kali penangkapannya. Dan sekarang dia akan diadili dalam 2 kasus, yakni kasus korban-korban mahasiswi yang terjadi di asrama Chi Omega di Tallahassee, dan pada kasus Kimberly Leach yang berusia 12 tahun yang terjadi di Lake City. Dan pada hari ini, di gedung pengadilan Leon County, Ted Bundy mulai diadili terkait dengan kejadian mengenaskan di asrama mahasiswi Chi Omega. Dalam kasus tersebut, Ted memiliki tim pengacara, tetapi ia menjadi pengacara yang banyak berbicara di muka sidang untuk membela dirinya sendiri. Karena ia merasa tidak ada pengacara hebat di luar sana selain dirinya. Di ruang sidang, Ted tampak sangat percaya diri, seolah dia sama sekali tidak terkait hal apapun dengan yang telah dituduhkan padanya, seperti yang telah disampaikannya di muka sidang. Dan pada saat sidang digelar, ia bagai selebriti yang akan melakukan pertunjukannya. Ia menebar senyuman pada semua orang, juga pada media yang selalu menyorotinya.
Serial killers are desperate to be at the heart of the story. Defending yourself clearly is going to allow you to draw
a great deal of attention to yourself. And Bundy, of course, had this fantasy that he was a very good law student and could have been a good lawyer. This is all part of the fact that serial killers often operate on a surface level. They don't have the depth to commit to a period of studying for a law degree. So it's all surface, it's all froth, it's all fantasy.
He was very sure of himself. He asked very good questions. But he didn't learn the first lesson in law school. The first lesson you learn in law school is never represent yourself.
Sidang kasus Ted Bundy sangat menyita perhatian media, sehingga di gedung pengadilan, semua media-media lokal dan nasional hingga media dari luar negeri turut meliput persidangannya dan memenuhi gedung pengadilan. Pesona Ted Bundy di ruang sidang menarik banyak orang, dan ruang sidang pun hampir dipenuhi oleh wanita-wanita muda, dan tidak sedikit para wanita yang hadir dalam sidang tersebut terpesona oleh Ted. Bahkan sebagian dari mereka tidak mempercayai bahwa pria menawan itu adalah pelaku dari serangkaian kejahatan yang mengerikan.
What is unusual to see is that many of the onlookers are women, young women, contemporaries of the 5 Florida State sorority sisters who were assaulted in their beds a year and a half ago.
I'm not afraid of him. He just doesn't look like the type to kill somebody.
Tapi tidak bagi Nida Niri, saksi mata di asrama mahasiswi Chi Omega pada malam itu memberikan kesaksiannya.
This is Leon County Courthouse. Today, Ted Bundy goes on trial for the brutal assault and murders at the Chi Omega sorority house.
Do you remember the man that you saw standing at the door of the Chi Omega house? Did you?
Yes, I did.
Would you point him out, please?
My jaw was broken in 3 places. I had lacerations on my shoulder.
My stomach was sick. Just to think that he could have done this. And in my mind, I went through Lisa and Margaret and how they were gone. And here's this guy sitting there and with a smirk on his face.
Dalam persidangan, Carol Durange, korban yang berhasil melarikan diri dari Ted Bundy, turut hadir memberikan kesaksiannya. Ia mengidentifikasi Ted Bundy sebagai pria yang mencoba melarikan paksa dirinya. Pembelaan Ted yang tampak handal di ruang sidang kini mulai lemah dengan adanya kesaksian dokter gigi forensik yang memeriksa gigi Ted Bundy terkait bekas gigitan kuat pada tubuh korban Lisa Levy, yang membuat Ted tercengang dan berpikir bahwa ia tidak mengira akan meninggalkan bukti fisik atas kejahatannya. Ann Rule menghadiri persidangan. Dia masih merasa sulit untuk percaya bahwa teman yang pernah bekerja dengannya di klinik saluran bantuan adalah pembunuh berantai yang kejam.
The afternoon testimony came from Dr. Richard Silveron, who is forensic dentist. The court was over and Ted was walking out of the room. He was always handcuffed and manacled, and he was carrying his files as he usually did. And he looked at me and he went like, "I didn't do it. I have no part of this, but I knew he did do it."
Dan saat pembacaan hasil putusan sidang, Ted tampak tidak memberikan ekspresi apapun. Ia tampak acuh, seolah ia menerima saja hasil putusannya, yang menyatakan bahwa Ted Bundy bersalah.
First, I didn't show any emotion because, what am I supposed to do? Am I going to jump up on the table? Am I going to scream? That's what I felt like doing. I heard my mother crying. It's an emotional time. I don't even like to think of that day. I've got to stay calm. I've got to keep my presence of mind, because as long as I do that, I'm going to beat these people.
Sementara bagi para korban selamat dan para keluarga korban yang telah meninggal, keputusan itu melegakan mereka. Bahwa laki-laki sakit jiwa dan jahat itu akhirnya tidak akan lagi menyakiti siapapun, karena ia sudah tidak lagi berada di tengah masyarakat. Ted Bundy dinyatakan bersalah atas semua tuduhan terhadapnya. Dan kini, hakim mulai membacakan hukuman baginya. Sebelum hakim membacakan hukumannya, ia menyampaikan bahwa kasus ini adalah sebuah tragedi mengenaskan bagi umat manusia. Tetapi di sisi lain, hakim juga mengakui dan kagum atas kemampuan Ted Bundy yang cerdas dalam pembelaannya di ruang sidang. Hingga hakim menyebut bahwa Ted Bundy akan mampu menjadi pengacara yang hebat. Hakim bahkan akan merasa senang jika Ted berlatih di hadapannya.
Ted Bundy's fate is now in the hands of Judge Edward Cowart. The judge will announce this afternoon whether he will send the former law student to the electric chair. Yesterday, the jury heard Bundy's mother ask that her son be spared, but the state reminded the jury of the victims.
Just 6.5 hours after Judge Edward Cowart handed the case to the jury, the panel returns with a verdict. Ted Bundy is guilty of all 7 counts of murder, attempted murder, and burglary.
Namun kemudian, hakim membacakan hukuman Ted Bundy yang berakhir di kursi listrik.
But in agreement with the advisory sentence rendered by the jury, it is hereby imposed the death penalty upon the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy.
Enam bulan kemudian, Ted Bundy yang berusia 33 tahun dinyatakan bersalah pada kasus Kimberly Leach, gadis yang berusia 12 tahun. Dan sekali lagi, Ted dijatuhi hukuman mati. Tetapi hal yang paling menarik dan mengundang banyak pertanyaan, di saat Ted Bundy sedang membela dirinya sendiri atas tuduhan serius menyangkut kejahatan yang mengerikan terhadap para wanita muda. Dalam ruang sidang, ia menikahi seorang wanita bernama Carol Ann Boone. Carol adalah teman kerja lamanya saat mereka masih bekerja di layanan darurat di Olympia, Washington. Saat penangkapan Ted, Carol yakin bahwa itu adalah salah tangkap. Ia meyakini bahwa Ted bukanlah pelakunya. Bahkan Carol mengatakan bahwa Ted tidak pantas dituduhkan sebagai pelaku. Hingga Carol mulai sering mengunjungi Ted di penjara. Dan akhirnya mereka menikah. Bahkan saat hukuman Ted dijatuhkan oleh hakim bahwa Ted berakhir di kursi listrik, Carol dan Ted telah memiliki seorang putri. Petugas penjara mengatakan bahwa beberapa kali ia sempat mengetahui Carol dan Ted berhubungan suami istri di kamar mandi dan di atas meja saat Carol sedang mengunjungi Ted di penjara. Tetapi pernikahan mereka diakhiri dengan perceraian, tepat 3 tahun sebelum Ted dieksekusi. Dan hukuman mati Ted Bundy akan dilaksanakan 9 tahun kemudian, terhitung sejak hakim membacakan hukumannya. Dan selama waktu tersebut, para penegak hukum banyak melakukan wawancara terhadap Ted Bundy terkait ratusan kasus pembunuhan yang tidak terpecahkan.
He was resting and kind of relaxed at that point, and I said something to him about, Ted, why did you, what did you do all this for? He says, I liked it. There was no discussion about, it was a mental problem that drove me to it, or any kind of a thing like that. He just enjoyed it. It's a terrifying thought.
Satu persatu Ted mulai mengakui semua kejahatannya. Bahkan ia memberikan rincian apa yang telah dilakukannya pada setiap korbannya.
What happened was I her unconscious with a crowbar and handcuffed her and put her in the passenger side of the car and I threw away the briefcase and the crutches and all that stuff. Yeah. And the crowbar, everything. Handcuffs, everything. And I'd get mad at myself a few weeks later because I'd have to go out and buy another pair. I mean, it's not comical, but that's what would happen.
There was information that he talked about with regard to murder that only the killer would know.
The Hawkins girl's head was taken up the road about 25 to 50 yards and buried in a location about 10 yards west of the road on a rocky hillside.
So we went up there 15 years later and dug up the whole mountainside and didn't find the skull. Whether he actually did or not, I don't know. That's when I found out about what killers really knew.
Ted mengakui lebih dari 30 gadis yang menjadi korbannya. Ia juga memberikan informasi tentang sisa-sisa jasad yang tercecer di sejumlah tempat, serta semua tempat kejadian perkara, di antaranya di sepanjang wilayah Washington, Colorado, California, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, dan Florida. Ted juga telah mengakui ia membuang banyak mayat ke pegunungan atau di hutan, dan dia sering kembali ke tempat itu untuk melakukan nekrofilia atau berhubungan tubuh dengan mayat, dan dia terkadang membawa pulang kepalanya. Tetapi setelah Ted Bundy dinyatakan bersalah dan menjalankan hukumannya, cerita terbesar yang berkaitan dengan masa kecil Ted Bundy menjadi mencuat. Dikabarkan ketika dia berusia 14 tahun, para tetangganya meyakini bahwa disinilah Ted pertama kali mengakhiri hidup seseorang. Ketika gadis kecil berusia 8 tahun bernama Anne Mary yang tinggal hanya beberapa blok dari rumah Ted. Anne Mary menghilang tanpa jejak. Hingga hari ini, Anne Mary tidak pernah ditemukan dan kasusnya tidak pernah terpecahkan. Kejadian itu terjadi pada 31 Agustus 1961. Kala itu jendela rumah Anne Mary tidak dikunci, dan pada saat malam ada bekas bangku yang diletakkan di bawah jendela seperti habis memanjat. Saat orang tuanya menyadari bahwa Anne Mary menghilang, mereka segera mencarinya, tetapi hingga hari ini masih menjadi misteri. Tetapi Ted Bundy tidak mengakuinya. Ia menuliskan dalam sebuah surat yang mengatakan bahwa saat itu ia masih berusia remaja yang normal dan tidak memiliki keinginan untuk menyakiti siapapun. Ted mengatakan bahwa ia tidak ada kaitannya dengan hilangnya Anne Mary, dan semoga Tuhan memberkati Anda. Surat itu ditujukan pada ibunya Anne Mary pada tahun 1986. Eksekusi Ted Bundy dilaksanakan pada 24 Januari 1989 pada pagi hari pukul 7. Tetapi pada malam ini, tanggal 23 Januari 1989, di penjara negara bagian Florida, para jurnalis berhamburan meliput berita hukuman mati terbesar sepanjang dekade atas kejahatan terburuk yang pernah terjadi di Amerika. Demikian juga ratusan warga masyarakat yang juga hadir. Mereka ingin memastikan bahwa keadilan ditegakkan dengan berakhirnya Ted Bundy di kursi listrik. Warga masyarakat juga mengenakan berbagai atribut dengan berbagai tulisan yang seolah menantikan akhir hidup dari penjahat menawan yang paling dibenci di Amerika Serikat. Kemudian sejumlah pertanyaan muncul. Apakah Ted Bundy melakukan serangkaian perbuatan mengerikannya ini diciptakan oleh alam? Atau karena salah asuhan? Apakah dia hancur sebagai seorang anak karena kebohongan bahwa ibunya adalah kakak perempuannya? Atau karena penolakan dari kekasih impiannya? Ataukah Ted Bundy memang terlahir untuk mengakhiri hidup para wanita muda?
I've never wanted to believe in the bad seed that a child is doomed from the beginning. But if a child with the tendency to violence is born into an abusive household, then you have the perfect soil to grow a sadistic sociopath. He wasn't crazy. He was not crazy. He knew what he was doing. He covered his tracks. But he was addicted.
There seems to be some indication that even when he was a child,
He had no real close emotional attachment to anyone. The basic personality is there when the child is born. It's acted upon by the environment. So was he born to kill? There had to be something in this child's genetic makeup that said, all you need is this certain environmental trigger, and then you'll be able to start your fate.
I've absolutely no doubt that Ted Bundy had a set of circumstances in his childhood which were very unusual and potentially incredibly damaging. Ted Bundy was not born to be a serial killer. It was a choice that he made as he grew up and felt that there was no other way of resolving some of his underlying psychological problems.
Di luar penjara negara bagian Florida, para jurnalis berlomba untuk mendapatkan wawancara terakhir Ted Bundy. Dan secara mengejutkan, Ted Bundy setuju untuk diwawancarai. Tetapi ia hanya ingin diwawancari oleh satu orang saja, yakni Dr. James Dobson. Ia adalah seorang psikolog dan pendiri Focus on the Family dan penulis Kristen evangelis Amerika yang disebut sebagai pemimpin evangelis paling berpengaruh di Amerika oleh New York Times. Akhirnya beberapa jam menjelang eksekusinya, Ted Bundy mulai diwawancarai dan ia memberikan pengakuan yang mengejutkan semua orang. Dan disebut bahwa kisah hidup Ted Bundy dari pengakuannya menjadi sebuah peringatan bagi negara dan para orang tua. Dan sekaligus menjadi sebuah perdebatan.
You really feel that hardcore pornography and the doorway to it, softcore pornography, is doing untold damage to other people and causing other women to be and killed the way you did others.
But I've lived in prison for a long time now. And I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography, without question, without exception, deeply influenced and consumed by an addiction to pornography.
He told Dobson what he wanted to hear, that it was hardcore pornography, violent, hardcore pornography that led him astray. And that's something that I will not allow my industry to take the blame for.
I knew what he said was true. Common sense tells you that that type of hardcore material is destructive for young people especially, and it breeds disrespect and violence against women.
Once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like other kinds of addiction, I would keep looking for more potent, more explicit, more graphic kinds of material. Like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement.
Between 79 and 89, it became prolific. It became videotaped. It became accessible beyond people's wildest dreams. It moved out of the theaters and into the home.
Magazines typically had as the theme of their covers. It would be a woman with a, or she'd be gagged or something like that, and she would more on the cover of this magazine, perhaps with some weapon or something.
Blood splattering, but constant look at these beautiful women in lingerie. I'm willing to bet that they started to ignite what became a forest fire in Bundy's psyche.
This, Ted Bundy told me, was the real pornography that motivated him. It was this demonic, as he classified it, demonic presence of a chemistry of and euphoria and control and anger.
Each time I'd harm someone, each time I'd kill someone, there'd be an enormous amount, especially at first, enormous amount of horror, guilt, remorse afterwards. But then that impulse to do it again would come back even stronger. We're talking about an influence that is the influence of types of media and which was an indispensable link in the chain of behavior, the chain of events that led to the behaviors, to the murder, and what have you. Those of us who have been so much influenced by violence in the media, in particular graphic violence, are not some kinds of inherent monsters. We are your sons and we are your husbands. And we grew up in regular families. And pornography can reach out and snatch a kid out of any house today. It snatched me out of my home 20, 30 years ago.
Well, I believe Bundy was used as a weapon by the right-wing, conservative, very religioso, might even call him religious mafia, who decided to use him because he perpetrated crimes. And the minute the word sex rears its empty head, you can blame it all on the adult entertainment industry. So Bundy becomes their banner. He becomes their bloody flag to wave into the face of all these people who, because they're watching adult material, might become future Bundys.
Should have been an alarm bell for the country. It should have been a wake-up call for parents. It certainly motivated me. I launched into a vigorous anti-pornography campaign as the state attorney.
One of the final you committed, of course, was apparently little Kimberly Leach, 12 years of age. I think the public outcry is greater there because an innocent child was taken from a playground. What did you feel after that? Were there the normal emotions 3 days later? Where were you, Ted?
I can't really talk about that.
Wawancara terakhir Ted Bundy menjadi berita utama, dan James Dobson dengan penuh semangat segera membagikan hasil wawancara tersebut pada semua awak media yang sedang menunggu dan pada semua lembaga penyiaran di Amerika.
I believe that every day he lived was the potential of another girl dying. The quicker his life ended, the better.
Dan akhirnya pada pukul 7.16 pagi, Ted Bundy meninggal di kursi listrik. Di mana ratusan warga yang berada di luar penjara bersorak-sorai bergembira atas kabar tersebut bahwa Ted Bundy kini tidak akan lagi menyakiti siapapun dan hukumannya dianggap sepadan dengan apa yang telah dilakukannya selama ini. Namun lain halnya dengan Louise. Sebagai seorang ibu, ia merasakan kesedihannya atas kepergian Ted Bundy untuk selamanya dengan cara yang tidak diinginkannya. Namun ia juga merasa kecewa bahwa Ted telah membohonginya. Karena selama belasan tahun, Ted Bundy memberitahunya bahwa ia tidak bersalah. Namun pada wawancara pengakuan Ted Bundy sebelum dieksekusi, ia justru mengakui semua perbuatan jahatnya yang sungguh di luar dugaan Louise.
His mother, Louise, says she still can't figure out what went wrong. In an interview with a Seattle television station yesterday, she expressed confusion at how a fun-loving and caring son could turn into a ruthless killer.
There's nothing in his background that can tell us what triggered all of this. In fact, up until Saturday, I didn't believe any of it.
Louise Bundy was thousands of miles away from her son when he was executed this morning. She says it would have been too painful.
And we didn't feel the agony we would go through by going down there would compensate for a few minutes of talking to Ted through glass. And he also felt that way too.
Mrs. Bundy always believed her son was innocent, and when he confessed to the things before his death, she was shocked.
We were angry for a while yesterday, even this morning, that he never confided in us. For 13 years, he's sworn up and down, backwards and forwards, that he was innocent. We believed him. We wanted to believe him. He's still our son, no matter what he's done, and we love him very much.
Begitupun yang dirasakan oleh adiknya, Richard. Ia benar-benar terpukul, telah kehilangan sang kakak yang menjadi panutannya, sekaligus kecewa atas semua kejahatan yang telah dilakukan sang kakak. Bahkan hingga saat ini, ia masih merasakan kepedihan dan kekecewaan yang mendalam.
Some things make me really depressed, in a almost debilitating way, where I will sit in this chair for days. I'll sometimes stay in this camper for 2-3 days at a time.
Kini ia hidup sendiri di daerah terpencil yang hanya ditemani seekor kucing kesayangannya serta foto-foto keluarganya. Sementara Liz, mantan kekasih Ted Bundy, ia menulis buku tentang kisahnya bersama Ted Bundy berjudul My Life with Ted Bundy yang diterbitkan 8 tahun sebelum Ted Bundy dieksekusi. Dan selama bertahun-tahun kemudian, ia banyak diwawancara di berbagai televisi dan film dokumenter tentang kisahnya dengan Ted Bundy.
I have a sense of disbelief that this man that I love could go out and do such horrific things.
Because of our placement in his world is the only reason that we're still alive, I'm quite certain, because people had their eyes on it.
Did that thought ever cross your mind?
That he was going to kill us? No.
Did you think he was capable of murder?
No.
I mean, I still believed he was innocent at that point.
Ted Bundy, yang disebut iblis bertampang-tampan menawan itu memang telah tiada. Namun ternyata masih menyisakan sebuah cerita yang menjadi berita mengejutkan. Ted Bundy dituduh telah mengakhiri hidup 36 wanita muda. Tetapi dalam pengakuan terakhirnya pada FBI, polisi dan pengacaranya, Ted Bundy mengakui bahwa korbannya lebih dari 100 orang.
Before his execution in 1989, Ted Bundy confessed to authorities to killing 30 women in 7 states. But as you're about to hear, his attorney John Henry Brown tells us that's not the whole story.
Ted told me things that he's never told anybody before, and they will be in my memoir when it comes out. He told me he killed more than 100 people, and not only women, which that's new. That's never been known. You're the first person I've ever told that to.
Were you ever scared of him?
Yes.
Really?
I've heard some people say he obviously had some brain damage as a young child. Others will say it's an inherited bad gene. Others would say it was a psychological scars from his youth. Others would say he read pornography. And I discussed these things with him, and his feeling was all of these factors may have entered into my life somehow without me even knowing it. However, I planned the crimes. I understood what I was doing, and regardless of what label anyone might choose to pin on me, I'm responsible. I'm not proud of it. I wish it didn't happen, but it was my decision.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not for me. I'm not looking for it. I understand now a lot of stuff about myself. But the senselessness of it appalls me. It's too bad I wasn't in a position to talk about this years ago.
Karena terdapat sejarah mengerikan dan penuh kekerasan di balik mobil VW milik Ted Bundy yang turut menjadi pokok cerita tentang dirinya yang menyertai kejahatannya dan disebut sebagai kaki tangan dalam perbuatannya. Kini, mobil VW tersebut dipajang di Alcatraz East Crime Museum di Tennessee, di mana sebelumnya dipajang di National Museum of Crime and Punishment di Washington DC karena telah ditutup pada tahun 2015. Bagaimana menurut Sobat K semua? Silahkan berbagi pendapatnya dengan sikap bijak ke dalam kolom komentar. Dan berikut sejumlah referensi dalam dokumenter kisah nyata K Channel kali ini. serta nantikan dokumenter kisah nyata dunia selanjutnya hanya di YouTube K Channel, Membuka Jendela Dunia.